so wonderful to have all of you joining here. We have a number of teachers with us from the Institute, Matt's friends, and from all over. And, you know, since working with Matt for the last several years now, there are so many people he calls friends. And that is like the true, as you watch those like Instagram, speaking of Instagram, Instagram videos, you watch those Instagram videos and you see those little caricatures of what is an Aries, what is a Gemini, and so forth. I saw a cute one the other day where it was little kids and how the sun signs are portrayed, and it was a little kid going down the aisle of an airplane, shaking everybody's hand. And you know, definitely working with Matthew, I've gotten to know who is the Gemini type, and it's been very delightful. And so just without stealing the show here, we already sung Happy Birthday to our very own Matthew Wood. And so as it looks like we're still settling in here for not having a Mercury retrograde, this has been kind of an interesting night, hasn't it, already? So while we settle in here, I am going to share the new Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism site. And there we go. That worked. Thank you. You know, I've been working in technology for a good, decade plus here with all this stuff. And, you just never know what might happen. So it keeps you on your toes. But as you probably know, the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism is launching a grand reopening on a brand new site. And I just wanted to show for you briefly, as again, we're settling in here. We have many amazing new features at this new site, a new professional library, site index, certificates for most courses, a weekly bonus that, for example, right now we're offering a bonus for Matt's more recent book, not his latest book, 7 Guideposts on the Spiritual Path, and the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism Materia Medica cards and the Forage Fun cards. Get our best ever pricing on our student favorite subscriptions, and also, which we just added over $2,400 to all the library options. And last but not least, also check out these new free offerings. Of course, tonight we have the birthday celebration, the grand reopening, but you can sign up here at the Matthew Institute of Herbalism.com for the Intro to Tongue Evaluation, which will be very fascinating. A lot of people are really enjoying this. And also the Intro to the Endocrine System with Matthew and Phyllis D. Light coming up here in just about a week. And also Matthew has a new book coming out officially at the beginning of next month. But he's already giving talks on this, and you can pre-order the book and also watch and listen to a talk on his new book, A Shamanic Herbal, right here at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism.com. So I just wanted to let you know what is going on briefly here at the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism, not only at the new site, but in general. We always have great and amazing things going on. So make sure to go there, check out the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism.com and see all of what is new. This whole month of June, we will be offering grand reopening specials. And if you're not already on the newsletter list, get on the newsletter list to make sure you're notified of those amazing new offers and specials. Okay, so thank you. It looks like everybody has settled in here. And we already sung Happy Birthday to Matthew. If you missed that amazing round, it kept going and going and going. And I'm going to hand it over. I want to say birthday boy, obviously birthday man, but you have such a boyish, good childish nature too, which I love as a very Capricornian, very serious person. It has been a wonderful balance to me. So thank you. Happy birthday, and take it away. It's your birthday with your friends here who will have other people joining us as well.
Well, I thought we ought to try to take a stab at
your audio might not be on.
I think it is. Oh, it says it's on.
I can hear Matt.
Not muted,
but you can't, Tara?
I was hearing you before.
So Ashley can.
Well, it's my side.
We ought to try to take a stab at
your audio might not be on.
Oh, I'm delayed. Let's see. I don't have a little. Oh, there's a little green line. Press. man.
It sounds like it's Tara's audio. We were backstage,
Yeah.
and I think what's happening is she's looping in to maybe something that's streaming. I don't know more than that.
Yeah,
But
you were sounding fine, Matthew.
yeah, why don't you keep going?
Yeah.
Well, I thought we ought to. We have enough tongue diagnosticians here. I thought we ought to take a stab at diagnosing that woman's tongue that was in the picture. If Tara can bring that up again, I already got one idea at least. I thought it was actually fairly distinctive, although there's not a lot of things wrong with it or anything. But we lost Margie. She's one tongue diagnostician. Can Tara hear me? Tara? No. Get up the tongue, that picture of the tongue of the woman.
Matthew,
Yeah.
before since I missed the birthday song, I wanted to let you know that I have a sparkling candle burning on your behalf.
Oh, great.
For me, okay?
Stop. Yeah. And by the way, let's see, I am hoping to visit New York. I'm going to be at the Black Walnut Conference, which is about the middle or second or third week of August. And I'm hoping to drive out.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that I'm hoping to be able to.
Yeah, we'll link up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So Tara, maybe put up the tongue picture again. So yeah, and we had Margie there for a while. So thank you. She's don't know if she's got a lot of time or not. She's already at Eastern. You guys on the East are already 8 o'clock and ticking. I certainly don't have as much. I don't stay up as late as I used to. And I sleep better and get up earlier. I mean, what can you say? It's like really, that's an advantage almost. So, but yeah, well, I thought that woman, the picture of the woman in the tongue diagnosis, that the tongue was rather pale in the center, not around the sides, but in the center, and her face was pale and her lips were pale. She didn't have lipstick on, so she looked anemic in some way. So, yeah, pretty distinctive that way. Kind of strange. So, but I don't know that you could say much more. She looked healthy otherwise. Not enough blood to get into trouble. Yeah. So, well, let's see. I've got a visit with Ashley. She just lives west of me. Well, actually, now that I live in Wisconsin, I mean, we're actually about an hour and a half away, but we should really get together. And
Not far.
Not far at all. I know I've been thinking about that. I missed it when you were at Present Moment. Several months ago. I heard about it like the next day, and I was like, so yeah, I would love to have you come up, and Adam and I can host you, and we can look at charts and talk herbs and charts.
Yeah, and charts. Yes, right. Yeah, you remind me, I should set up with Present Moment to do a book signing out sometime in July. So
yeah, because your new book is coming out. Is it July? It's in July, right? Is when it.
They say it's the 2nd. I don't know if that's true. They already sent me a box of about 10 books, and kind of strangely, my friend Robert Rogers in Alberta got a copy about a week before I did. So I couldn't believe it. Like, what the heck? I guess the Canadian, once they got the book into Canada, boom, it moved fast, huh?
Yeah, I ordered it on Amazon pre-sale, so I'm just in the line waiting for it. But this has been a book you've been working on for years, right?
Yeah, well, in some ways, my whole life. Yeah. Oh, hi, Chris. Yeah. So my book, Chris would know some about this. My book, Judith Sims. Hi. Good. Yes. Yeah. Judith lives only about a mile or two from my mother's house. It's take a couple miles to get there, but yeah. So Yeah, and Chris and I did a lot of work on the animal medicines, and so the new book is a shamanic herbal, and it has a lot of information about that kind of. Well, that's the main thing I would say. Yeah. When I was um, so I was at Margie's from the 14th to about, I don't know, then I switched over 10 days, went to Phyllis's, and we had 3, 4 great days of visiting. On the fourth day, then David came, so it was even more people, more things going on, more talking, more sharing. And then we drove to the conference there, which is a great conference. Um, well, I keep wanting to call it Mid-South, but it's Wild Medicine or something.
Wild Medicine Conference. Yep.
Yeah, and she did a great job. It's almost like, how could you do that in 3 months? Was it 5 months? I don't know.
I think it was about 3 months she put it together. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was really fun, and David and Phyllis and I all taught, plus some other people. And Michelle, who Wriggling,
Riegling.
yeah, who put it on. She's a mushroom. She's talked about mushrooms, which is cool because when I was at Margie's, I drove up to the main Fungi Fest, and actually I got to teach there. I didn't get paid. I just called at the last moment, 2 weeks before it was going to be. So I got free admission. I got to teach, and I gotta say, about, even though it was so short notice, about at least 5 or 6 or 7 people said, "I'm here because I saw you, because of you." I was like, "Oh, what?" Oh, and another thing that keeps happening, I keep on people, and Phyllis can attest to this. People say, "Oh, I see you online." In fact, they were saying, "Phyllis and Matt, we see you online, both you guys," and so that's been happening to me since last fall, at least. And so that's kind of neat that you feel like you're being recognized all over the place. And I mention this because we kind of have been getting the idea of advertising, you teachers, of trying to get you guys a little bit more limelight, celebrityhood, and advertising wherever you are. And so uh, um, so that was kind of the that was what we did. And Margie and I were working on the William Lassassier archive, which was really exciting. He was just such a genius. Like, every sentence is a genius and statement. And David Winston studied with him at that time in the late 70s. It may even be it may even be that we were working with a transcription from a tape that group. Some of those groups, they would have a typist transcribe it, and then they'd share it. Oh, they would tape it and transcribe it, and that's a pretty cool thing. And so we it's just so exciting to go through his work, even though it's so old. Margie wanted to do something. We found an outline for a book called The Birth Epic and Care of the Young. And he was quite a midwife, because he was like herbalist, doctor, midwife to the hippies, and lots of people didn't have any insurance. That was just a totally different time period. The only people, if you had a drug OD, it was like some bunch of hippies that had set up a OD hotline or something, because in those days there wasn't any. Medicine was thin on the ground compared to now, and they couldn't do much anyways. No organ transplants or any of that kind of nonsense, which they can do now. So he did a lot of midwifery work, and the manuscript, actually, he had written up. It was really beautiful. He had a last chapter where he really expressed what he wanted, which was the legacy of the child, and it was how we want to give the child the best possible, feeding and send off and health for the lifetime. It was really wonderful thinking, and so it was all full of diet. You don't fast when you're pregnant. You could fast a little bit beforehand, and you can limit your food, and some foods are better than others. And we did find about maybe a third or almost half of a book's worth of stuff but we may stall out there. So then it was, this is giving you guys the news. You guys can all share the news too from your corner of the universe. And then when David came, then he filled us in what it was like to study with William at that time in the late 70s. And what he said, yeah, William's what he was talking about changed every 5 minutes or even every minute. And you see that in the manuscripts. It's like, holy cow. Like Margie and I decided that he was actually thinking two things at once. And even within that, he was changing all the time. So, but his turns of phrase are those of a genius. He could never get it all written down. He just tried and tried. He never could. There were about 10 materia medicas or herbals, and I've got that. Maybe I've gotten about a quarter through all that. That's the other book we want to do from him. But the Birth Epic and Care of the Young, that just will be a great book because, I mean, he really, really studied it and had experience and explains it all. Hopefully we can get enough to explain it all. So, and then up at the main Fungi Fest, Sean Donahue was up there, so I got a short visit with him. Oh, and by the way, if anybody's watching, I will be teaching 2 weekends from now, which is a week and a half from now. I don't even know the name of that. Nathan Wright, indigenous Indian from the north. So if that's Michigan, they always do that hand thing. It's about up there, right by the Mackinac Bridge. And I have land over in about 5 hours away in the Upper Peninsula. So I'll be going over there. I'll meet Jim McDonald, and it's always a pleasure to see Nathan. And I wish that he's just getting out the materials today, and it will be posted on the Institute. So anybody from Upper Lower Michigan maybe would enjoy that. It's kind of informal. Again, just 2 weeks notice. So, and I wouldn't be going there, but Jim called me up and said, we gotta visit. So, so a few things. I travel a lot less, and I think most of you guys, that's true. Less conferences. So, and Chris, you might be interested. Maybe next year when you're a little more settled down with our Upper Michigan project. So I'm trying to sell Chris some land from my land. And I don't know, have you talked to anybody up in the township there at all, or Chris?
Yeah, every time I go up there, I talk with more and more people just to get a feel for the locals and, what's going on up there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not very many people.
That's true. Yeah, I've talked to maybe a half a dozen. There's hardly anyone ever out in the town. Actually, just when I was just up there over Memorial, there was a whole bunch of people around town. Locals all were gathering out and right there on the main drag, and it was pretty interesting. So I actually got to talk to more people than usual.
So that was like a parade or something we were having?
No, it was just, I'm not sure exactly what they were doing, but there was just a lot more people out and about for whatever reason.
Oh, well, that's Rockland?
Yeah, in Rockland. Yep.
Yeah. And where was I? I was someplace, it might have been California, but I met someone who said, oh, my family comes from Rockland. I could hardly believe that. But they left.
No way.
Yeah, I know. They left. Yeah. Her family were miners. They were Cornish. So they're probably in managerial positions, and probably when the labor they probably moved because the labor got too intense up there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's wild. That's such a small town.
Yeah. There's 3.5 townships of land, almost like the size of a county down here. And but we really like it, and we're slowly getting the wheels of sale. I've had to pay some taxes and do all sorts of things and send forms here and there. But so I'll be going up there next weekend after this one. So I'm going to try to schedule time to visit with somebody there and talk to people. Yeah. So, because I've done everything I have to do. Yeah.
Well, no, Dan and I are going back up over the 4th to finish the timber frame and
Okay.
see what else we can get done.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll try to aim at coming up then too. Yeah. Huh. Okay. So the timber frame was okay when you went back?
Yeah, it's in perfect condition. I was surprised with it being undercover for so long.
Oh.
Yeah, pulled it back, everything was perfect.
Yeah, that's tough wood. Yeah.
Yeah, white oak. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, it was fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. You and I ought to do a refresher. Ought to do some more animal medicine stuff since I'm selling this book here. And
Yeah, we should.
yeah. So.
So
And
where's the birthday stuff?
what?
The birthday stuff. Happy birthday!
Okay.
Right. Happy
We have a little
birthday.
song. We have a little song to sing for you, and then
Happy birthday.
I got a buzz. But
What song are we
happy
singing?
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Happy birthday, dear Matthew. Happy birthday to you. Hoorah, hoorah, give 70 cheers for Matthew Wood, 70 years. Happy birthday.
Woo!
Right.
That went.
That's great.
Everyone should have joined in on the last note. You just pick a note.
Just
So we
pick
can
any
just
old
say,
note.
Happy birthday.
You have a good voice there. There's my sister, Mina, who was on.
Oh, thank you. Oh, hi. Who's that? I can't see.
Mina Learwood.
Mina.
Yeah. Actually, we did talk about telling a family story
Oh.
about Matthew and his
Oh my
youth.
Oh, by all means.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I want to get my mom at the helm of this story because it involves visiting New York, which is where our
really?
family, half of our family is from New York.
Well, actually, just about everybody in our family is ultimately. Yeah. So my mom's families, yes, they were Jewish immigrants that arrived 1880 to 1900. And then my dad's family, half his ancestors were Quaker Long Islanders, New Yorkers, and the last one arrived in 1667. And one of them, John Bound, built a house in Flushing, the Bound House. It's still there. And Carolyn will have to go visit it, perhaps. And we visited, and I've seen, but not been inside the Westbury. So that's where most of my ancestors lived, Westbury, Long Island, near Oyster Bay, which is probably super rich real estate. But they built Oyster Bay. They couldn't agree on a church, so there was no church for the first 50 years. And finally, they built a Quaker meeting in 1701. That's the oldest church there. It's kind of crazy that they couldn't figure out what religion. That's very uncommon at that time. And so my dad is, I'm half Jewish side, quarter from those Quaker Long Islanders. But when we investigated my grandmother's ancestry, about half of them were English from Eastern Long Island, from way off in Southampton and places like that over there. So I'm like a New Yorker through and through, and it is a city, one of the few cities I feel kind of comfortable in, even when I'm on a subway. What?
Did you hear what Mom said?
What?
Can you hear us from
No.
this room? Okay.
Do you wanna
Let me bring Mom over to the couch.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
When
they-
you said, okay, so when Matthew said, I consider myself a New Yorker through and through, Raquel
Uh-oh.
immediately said, no, he's not. Because she grew up there, but
Oh yeah.
we grew up
Yeah,
out
but
of here in Minnesota.
She left when she was 17, so she doesn't count either. But it was great fun, always going to visit our grandparents, even a few great grandparents, and one at least, and great aunts and uncles and extended family, very loyal, like New Yorkers in those days.
Yes, that's all right, Matthew. This New Yorker embraces you. I'm actually going to a Quaker meeting. I'm looking to do it this Sunday.
Oh, wow.
I
And
don't know if you'll have time, but we can go together when you get
No,
here.
not
If you
yet.
have time.
oh, we have a dog that's a little bit.
Oh.
All
Yeah.
right. Yes. You've been to the Quaker meeting before, I think, too.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And
Mhm.
what part of Brooklyn do
I
you live?
love the way they do it. You
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
silence, the meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is that of God in every person.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't need an intermediary to
Yeah.
get to God.
Or an intermittent.
Yeah. And I had the Quaker mindset before I even visited the Quakers, so we come right together.
So, what neighborhoods did you grow up there, Mom, in Brooklyn?
In Flatbush most of the time.
Where I live now.
Oh,
Oh, is that
okay.
right? Okay, so I lived pretty near Brooklyn College.
I'm across the street.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
I went to Midwood High School,
Mhm.
which is from
Around the corner.
It was on the other side of the college.
Yes.
Mhm. Yep.
She also went to the Brooklyn Ethicultural.
Ethical Culture School.
Yes. Oh, that's really nice.
Young child.
Oh,
You know, I mean, not
okay.
a young child, but from kindergarten through 8th grade.
Oh.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I did workshops there with Arbor Vitae
Oh,
3 times. I think it was last year. Yeah, last year. Mhm.
Arbor Vitae being the school in New York City and up the Hudson, run by
Right.
Rick Heel and Richard Mandelbaum. And
Yeah. I got to stay up there with Amber.
oh, okay.
Yeah. hmm And
I-
Richard was teaching a class on the pulse and some other things.
Okay.
He's on camera.
Yeah. So, yeah, I still have cousins in Brooklyn, so that's nice. I hope to visit them. Mina has visited. I visited many a time, and I just have to say this crazy story about her son Dan. He came back from Europe. I don't know that he announced that he was going to be in New York, but
No, he did not. He
Yeah.
didn't tell anyone. He was, 20 something. He was cruising around Europe. He arrived in the United States in New York City with $1 in his pocket.
Ooh.
And he slept in Central Park, and then he was released to go to Brooklyn the next day and find his cousins. And he didn't have a cell phone. This might have been pre-cell phone. It couldn't have been pre-cell phone. But at any rate, he had been in Europe, so he hadn't had any cell phone minutes or whatever. So he goes to Brooklyn, and he just gets off at a train stop. He can't quite remember where he's supposed to be. He walks up the stairs of the train stop to the street level, looks around, and one of our cousins happened to have to get her car exhaust checked. You can't have too bad of car exhaust, and you have to go in and get it checked. And she was sitting in a waiting room, and she was just looking out at the street, and she sees this kid with long blonde hair walk up out of the subway, look around, and then walk back down. And she's like, "That's my cousin. That is my cousin."
Oh my God.
She runs across the street. She's actually Matthew's age or a little older. So
Yeah.
we're cousins, but he's like a first cousin twice removed. Or I don't know.
Something
Anyway,
like that.
so she grabs him and she brings him back to her house, and she feeds him and she takes care of him until
She
he's ready on
rescues
the
him.
Greyhound bus, and she puts him on the bus and sends him back.
Wow. He's a lucky guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had good luck and bad, but yeah, he was born under the sign of the rabbit. So
Are you coming with Matthew in August? I told him I want to meet you.
Oh, although I mean, if you want
that
to,
would be so awesome.
well, we can probably arrange that just because Mina would be staying now and then with our cousins in Park Slope there. Yeah. So
All right.
I'd love to get together with you, Carolyn. That would be so
Yeah, it would be
Not sure
fun,
about
right?
summer. Things are just up in the air with me a little bit since our father passed away.
Yeah.
I've been here at Bedford Street quite a bit to help take care of Mom, along with our niece, Andy, is also here. And I don't know if my brother Ned is on the line, but Ned said he might come to the birthday party. And this story we were going to tell involves Ned.
Okay.
It's pre-Mina Learwood, because I was not born yet.
Okay, so I'm under 11. I'm 11 or less.
No, well.
Or you weren't there. Maybe you weren't there.
I wasn't there because I think it involves going to the genealogical library in Manhattan.
Oh, all right. Well,
so Matthew has been obsessed with genealogy, not just recently, not just in the last 50 years.
From age 13.
He's been obsessed since age 13. And so he begged my mom to let him go. I think he was 14.
Could be.
Let him go to the genealogical library in New York City to research his ancestors at the age of 14.
Wow.
And so they get to the library, and my mom had, I guess I must have been left at home because I was 3, or left with some great aunt or something. Mm-hmm. And but Raquel has Ned, who is 3 years younger than Matthew, with her, as well as Matthew. And when they get to the genealogical library, they're planning on just leaving Matthew there for a few hours.
Yeah.
In Manhattan.
Which I will love.
But the library will not allow anyone under 18. No. Is this? Okay, I'm going to tell the story for Mom. They won't allow anyone under the age of 18 to study in the library without a parent present. And so,
oh my God.
So Matthew wants to study genealogy, and Raquel is a parent, of Ned as well. So she gives Ned $5, and she says, take this $5 to FAO Schwartz, and we will meet you there in 2 hours.
Oh my God. Also, he's about 10.
Okay, so maybe you were 13 and he was 10?
Yeah.
That would make sense. So then he walked down to FAO Schwartz and happily and spent hours at the toy store. I think it was on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I know he did. Whether it's on Fifth Avenue or not, I think it's likely, but I don't know. It doesn't matter where it was. It was within walking distance.
Right. So my mom and dad many, many, many times had to do something special for their oldest son, Matthew, because he just was different.
True.
Many, many times they said, I don't know how this happened, but
they didn't tell me this.
Yeah, no, but they had to do it for Matt. So
can't get rid of him.
Get rid of him.
Wasn't a normal
No, not
kid.
Matthew, the dog.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, well, let's see. I do remember something too. So when I was about 6 and Ned was about 3, I suppose, I think we had to give Ned a break from me, or Mom a break from me. So I went with our grandfather, Papi Abe, we called him, to Harlem, where he was manning a booth for voter registration. So this would have been like 1950, 1960, way back there. And this is so crazy. Even at age 6, I was a total skeptic about politics and actually trying to help anybody through political action. And I remember being totally skeptical, like, yeah, who's ever going to sign up here, But yeah, this middle-aged guy, he stopped, I remember, and he was carrying groceries. He looked like he was about 50, and he looked really kind of, quizzically at the, blacks in Harlem didn't have very good, voter representation yet. So he looked at it and he's like, I think I'll sign up for this. So at least one person, and that's kind of what you're aiming for, at least one person. So, and that was a lesson for me. I thought, I guess this political action stuff does work, actually. So,
one person at a time.
Yeah, but I just can't believe that I was this is how I know I was that skeptical about politics. I don't know how I could have picked up.
Yeah, because my mom's parents were super political. They're socialists, they're Jewish socialists. And my grandfather even said, "This is the face that has been kissed by Eugene Debs."
In case you don't know, he ran for president on the socialist platform for about 20 years. And
from jail.
From jail, okay. And Papi Abe, what he said, he said a couple times. He said interesting things. He said Roosevelt stole the socialist platform. That was an interesting way to put it. And indeed, we know right wingers are still rebelling against what the things that Roosevelt brought into place. Yeah. Well, that's yeah. I mean, just the rest of it, and welfare, basically, or taking care of citizens, basically. Social Security, for instance. So, and then another time he said, if FDR stopped a civil war, there would have been a civil war if he hadn't gotten in and changed things. That was interesting too. So those are
He was
old.
super opinionated. Our grandfather would never. I mean, you almost couldn't stand being around him.
Well, he was very kindly to his grandkids, I would say. Yeah, but there's a family photo where he's there with the whole family, and Mina has commented, it's so true. He said, "Wow, that's the only photo where Poppy Abe is not scowling."
That's what a lifetime of politics will do to you. I love politics too, but I mean, if you take it too seriously, you're just going to be frowning and angry all the time.
Yeah, but I think that he was born that way.
Okay, I think you're right. He was born that way. They said they had to put coffee in his baby bottle so that he wouldn't drink.
I've heard that too. Yeah, and the only thing he wanted to eat as a child was milk. Bread dumped in coffee. He kind of looks like someone that's what he ate.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah,
So
I think a healthy dose of skepticism is healthy about politics anyway.
Oh,
got to keep that skepticism open.
Yeah, that's right. You got to keep your heart. You got to keep your heart.
Take that away from
Oh, the dog's chewing.
Oh,
up
and
Matthew's shoes.
it was very cute. Let's see. So they lived to be their mid-90s. I can't remember the times. I mean, it was just so long. So my mom comes of good genes, and she exercised way more than they ever did. So, and taking pulses, I found that if I found that if someone exercises, cardiac tone will show up a lot. It will show up for at least 10 years, especially 5, but it'll really show up even 10 years. The pulse is still nice and even. So you get cardiac tone. You also get cardiac tone from meditation. This has all been proved by Dean Ornish in various research.
But most New Yorkers walk so much that they also have good circulation or whatever it is.
Yeah, and
good tone.
Carolyn can testify that you almost never see overweight New Yorkers.
Who? What?
Oh.
Depends on what part. Wait a minute. That's a mistake. No, there's a whole lot of it. It's overrun with overweight people.
Oh, I thought, gee, going off those subways. Well, walking the streets of Manhattan, I don't know. You don't see too many. You don't see too many overweight people walking, at least. I don't know.
Well, that's a whole other thing. It's like where you are.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of overweight people.
Yeah. So we have a picture here of Poppy Abe with one of his great grandkids. This is Andy. Yeah. Okay. And this would be.
Oh,
There he is. He's smiling, but that's a bit of a skull.
nice.
No, he loved having grandkids, and he was always very nice to us. Yeah. And now that I'm older, let's see, I've got to recount a few stories, health stories. So he's the one that I've told this story. He broke his collarbone, and tried the doctor. You can't. All you do is put your arm in a sling. The doctor couldn't get it set. It's not normal to be able to set that. And so after a month, he called me. Anything we can do? And I sent him bone set, comfrey, and Solomon seal. And within a month, he called back to say the doctor said that it was healing nicely. He was about 75 then. So it's not so easy to heal a bone when you're older too. And that's why I put comfrey in there. I wouldn't have put comfrey in, but bone set helps it get in the right place. And Solomon seal just all around. It probably also helps get it in the right place. And
So is that good as a tincture as well? Because I have all three, and I'm thinking about making a bunch of tinctures this summer.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
should I make them separately, or can I make them together, and in what portions?
Oh, that's a good question because teasel and salmonseal are a great combo. So, and nowadays I might add what Phyllis has taught us to the evening primrose, and which Phyllis could talk about a little. We can't help. See, we're all herbalists. We can't help but talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I added so I would say, yeah, teasel and Solomon seal.
But you didn't say teasel before, did you?
No, no. So my friend Susan, who departed this plane of existence in December herself,
Mm-hmm.
she combined teasel and Solomon seal. It's a great combo. And I discovered something about teasel today out there planting trees out in my field, and that I'll mention. But
I thought, isn't teasel in the formula for Lyme's disease?
yeah, it's a really good Lyme disease remedy.
Yeah, because Mom just recently got bit by a tick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I should have. Yeah. Well, it seems that it's a dog tick, so it's not so serious. And hopefully, Phyllis and I will not show up with ticks on us because this conference was in a very ticky place. Yeah, hopefully you didn't. No, she already had it before she saw me, so I didn't spread a tick to her. But yeah, so Solomon seal and teasel, you could make that in rubbing alcohol would actually not be a bad idea for external use. I put those in tinctures and I sent that to him. It was a tincture not intended for external use, but we used it externally on the collarbone. So yeah, but teasel and Solomon seal is a great combo, and I've been looking for a third one to add, and mullein would be good, but evening primrose sounds really good from Phyllis's background with that. Boneset might be good, but boneset overlaps with teasel too much. Actually, they both are very jointy plants that tell you that they're going to work on the joints and the bones and stuff. But today I was out planting trees and I dug up a teasel with no intention of using it, just to get it out of the way to plant a tree, because it's easier to dig up the teasel than the grass. The sod was so thick. And I found out the teasel, it collects water in those cups up the stem, and then that actually flows down to the root. It was very moist in the soil there. It was really like, wow, I think it really moistens joints. It moistens, that cup is like a joint. It's a kidney plant in Chinese medicine. So the signatures are really borne out.
And it helps expel mucus.
Yeah, so one could see how it could thin and increase water in the lungs in a positive way, secretions. Yeah. So Carolyn used it. Did you use it during COVID?
COVID. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you were in New York City, which was really hit. So, and she wrote a whole thing about it. We've got to do some stuff on that. Yeah. And then Phyllis, do you want to say a few words about evening primrose?
I can say a few words. The evening primrose, every single part of the plant is medicinally active and very useful for cough, colds, flu, improving bone growth. It helps support women's female reproductive tract. It can be used for prostate. There's just not a lot it can't be used for. So it is one that I have growing in my yard, and that's one that I always keep every year. I tincture the leaves, infuse the seeds to make an oil. I just always have it around.
Yeah, and you found it very useful in bone healing.
I did. I had a broken ankle, and it was one of my number one herbs to use for that. But I have a question that's going to take us in a different direction. So if you don't want to do this, just let me know. I'm really curious how everyone here met you. I would love to hear, like, Ashley, how did, Robin, how did you meet you? Judy, I would love to hear Carolyn, how did y'all meet Matthew? How did y'all get in contact with Matthew? And I'm sorry Judith and Chris has left because I would have loved to have heard their stories too. I mean, is this okay? Take it off in a different direction? I'm curious.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
I
Ashley.
love telling my story.
All right.
Because I conjured Matthew and then I stalked him. I love saying that. I didn't really stalk him, but I sort of stalked him. I was studying herbalism and he was in my textbook. And when I read about animal medicine, I said, oh my God, I love this. I have to meet him. And so, I kept it in my consciousness. And then because Arbor Vitae was uptown, I would take community classes with them. And one day they were offering a class about the thyroid and who was leading it but Matthew Wood. And I contacted my friend because it was at night and I didn't want to go up there by myself. I said, Frank, you got to come with me. My teacher, I want to meet this man. And I came up and Matthew, you had a cold and I had all these ginger candies. I gave you all my ginger candies, make friends with you, told you my story, and you advised me and to get additional certifications, which you were absolutely right. I got all of my additional certifications of the modalities that I'm in love with. And thank you so much. Happy birthday to you. And thank you for fulfilling my dreams.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And I still remember you and your friend because you cornered me after the class was over.
I sure did. And I sat right up in front. I was like, we got there early. I said, let's sit right here. And I didn't care that you had a cold. I would take your germs that day. I'd take a hit for the team.
Wow.
This was pre-COVID, so they were not COVID germs.
Yeah, and the other thing that impressed me was how the students catered to you and brought you tea and everything. I just thought that was so beautiful that you were so revered. And I feel the same way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, very nice school. Yeah, Claudia, you've met Claudia Kiel. I always, you would rival her. I always say she's the nicest person in New York City. She's doing a lot, but you would do there too. But she always seems like a Midwesterner, not like a New Yorker, which you also don't seem like a New Yorker, but you are. So.
Really? Yeah, but I can straddle the fence because they allowed me to stay at the school. And I just love that environment.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have to say Manhattan got so expensive they had to leave. They went to Brooklyn and then finally up the Hudson River. That's incredible how expensive it's gotten there. I think they're gonna have a fall. I just don't think you could overprice things, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah, it's so
we needed them in Brooklyn, and I didn't get the chance to visit their Brooklyn site before they left. I was so disappointed, but I did make it upstate.
Yeah, so then we met the next time. Carolyn arranged a great day. So we met actually at the Brooklyn, is that museum?
Grand Army Plaza Library.
Yeah, which I mean is only a couple blocks from my cousins here near Union Square, where these cousins we're talking about live. So very familiar to me. And then we got on the subway probably at Union Square and went to the Bronx Botanical Garden, which I had been to once as a child, but I went there pre-herbalist, like I didn't really know, So it's a wonderful place, and we were kind of lucky. It was not at all crowded. I can't remember if it was a holiday, but we were there when it closed. And there was like a person here, a person there. And like, wow, you don't always expect that. in New York City, so that was wonderful too. So yeah, and just traveling, you go by, you got subway and then a train, you go up to Brooklyn, so it's a bit of an adventure, very memorable, and Carolyn has some great photos. I don't think I had well, I didn't take photos, so we should post a few. The greenhouse, the interior was really something.
It was beautiful.
So, yeah.
I like the video that I took of you walking through that kaleidoscope color tunnel.
We posed some things because it was like quite a setting. Yeah. Well, let's see. So, Phyllis, how did I meet you?
Well, I would prefer to hear how Ashley met you and Robin met you.
Okay, let's go to Ashley then.
Hey, Matt. Hey, everyone.
Yeah.
So, Matt, let's see. So it was then Thai Sophia. Now it's Maryland University of Integrative Health. And I had just gone through the program and I was like, but wait a minute, what about plant spirit medicine? Like there's more, and I'm finished. And so one of the teachers gave me, she said, you have to read this book. And it was the book of Herbal Wisdom. Oh. And I just remember opening it and being like, hallelujah, this is what I've been waiting for. This is the way that I see the plants. So then, similar to Carolyn, I kind of stopped you. I was like, how do I find him? And we were teaching a weekend workshop with Kat Mayer. She rented out, remember it was like the cabins.
Yes.
Yeah. That was in like 2011, I think, or 2010.
That was one of the nicest. I don't know if she's still renting that place, but it was kind of a rustic camp. It was really a nice campground. Were you there the same, Amanda? I met Amanda.
Amanda Dilday?
Yeah, there too. I don't know if she was there that year, but yeah.
Yeah. So I met you there and I was, a little more of the shy. I'm Cancer rising, but my husband, who's an astrologer, is not. He has a lot of good Capricorn and Libra energy. So he just went right on up. He's like, hey, Matthew, and just started talking about ayahuasca and astrology. And then the world opened up and I was like, I kind of came in, I was like, hi. And we started talking about plants and I got to know Kat a lot more that weekend. And I think that's where it opened up. But I remember, these are actually my notes in my little journal from that weekend. And I remember what you said. You said, Matthew says he works for the plants, not people, but he's happy to help. Show people paradise on earth, but not if they don't want it.
Yeah.
And you said plants have emotions more steady than humans. Most nightshades teach by adversary, combat. And then you kind of went into like a bunch of plants, but I was just the way I really felt like you spoke on behalf of the plants. Like you spoke and you were like a translator. And and so I've just been a sponge ever since. I just read your books. I follow you. I teach what I've learned from you. And then if it's okay, I want to just read something. It's not too long. A little birthday blessing. This is from David White's book called Constellations. And he takes one word and then he talks about it. I'm just going to read an excerpt because this is what you are to me, Matt, which is robust. Robustness is a word denoting health, physiological and psychological. The ability to meet the world with vigor and impact. To be robust is to be physically or imaginatively present in the very firm presence of an equally robust something or someone else. Being robust means we acknowledge the living current in something other than ourselves. Robustness is a measure of the live frontier in a conversation, whether it is a physical contact in a wrestling match, a good exchange of ideas in the classroom, or a marital argument in the kitchen. Without robustness, all relationships become defined by their fragility and wither and begin to die. To be robust is to attempt something and risk something beyond the perimeter of our own constituted identity. And then this last part, robustness means we can veer off either side of the line while keeping a firm, ongoing intent. And I feel like that's so your Gemini energy. It's like you've got these worlds and you can veer, but you've got such a robust center in your health and your knowledge and your wisdom that and you've created so many amazing, your school and your books. And so to me, when I think of you, Matthew, I just think of your robustness, and I thank you for that, for bringing that into my life. And I think so many here probably agree. So thank you for letting me share, and happy birthday, Matthew.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and this reminds me something that I learned from Judy there, that she said, notice how young all the herbalists look. And I won't share anybody else's name, but believe me, some of you look way younger than you really are. And this is really typical. I mean, like like David, we were at, he has some gray hair, he's losing some hair, but I mean, he doesn't look like he's his age. I think he's a little older than me. I'm not sure, but he certainly has strong chi in his voice and everything. And I mean, you could just go on and on. Matthias and Andrea Rice, and I saw them 2 years ago, upstate New York. They just look as young as they did 30 years ago, after I don't know how many kids and having a farm and whatnot. And so it goes on and on and on. Just very typical. I think everybody would pretty much agree. It's very, and someone, oh, well, my sister-in-law actually said, oh, I sure wouldn't have guessed you were 70. She was leaving the door as I was coming in. And someone at the festival too. So yeah. And I think maybe working with herbs makes you a little bit robust, but that really is true at a very young age. I realized I'm working for the herbs for people. If they want my help, they can have it, but I'm never disappointed if somebody doesn't want my help. It's like, well, too bad for you, because you're missing out. But so I don't have that. A lot of herbalists, they won't listen to me or something. I think you outgrow that after a while, but I never really had that problem. Yeah, and I do feel like a translator. And I do remember an experience with my friend David Milgram, who we did a class recently, which is a great class. I really recommend to each and every one of you, because he's more of a chiropractor. He's really into the cerebral spinal fluid and not into herbs as much, although he knows some. And he was there. He's one of the people I knew when I wrote the book of Herbal Wisdom, my very first book. And there may be a case history with him in it. I don't know, but so some of my very first case histories, one was helping his wife to be with a wound injury on her, with a red streak running up her arm. So what was I going to say about him? He took me up. So he would do chiropractic for a Hopi elder who was 99 or 100. He died at 103, and on the Haute Villa. On the Hopi Res, and we went up there, and Grandfather David, and he was just sitting there, just kind of always tapping his foot to like the beat of the drum and the kiva. Just he just was praying all the time, and we talked. Somebody said, I had a dream last night, and David Milgram said, what was it? What did you dream, Grandfather? He said, I dreamed I was out in the desert, and walking in the desert, and I laughed. I laughed, or he chuckled, rather. He didn't say I laughed. He just said he chuckled, because the idea of walking in the desert, that was like 15 years out of date for him. And then he said, and the herbs, I saw the herbs and they were crying. And I said, and he laughed at that. Just the idea the herbs were crying was a little kind of funny. And then he said, why are you crying? And they said to him, nobody uses us anymore. They use the white man's medicine. So I took that. At the time, I just thought that was just a great dream. But I realized it kind of related to me, that I was there that I was being a spokesman for the herbs, and part of the herbal renaissance, which Phyllis and I and David and all participated in, kind of that generation. And Ashley would know, and Robin, many of the people of that generation, almost all of us are still alive. Although William was a generation before. He's been dead quite a while. And one or two people, Michael Moore, he passed away. So, and he was a giant. well, he was kind of half of a generation ahead of us. So thanks for reminding me of some of those themes there. Yeah. So anybody else want to chime in? Judy, maybe, since I just
Robin, I would love to hear it,
I-
both. I have not heard either one of these stories, so I'd love to hear it.
So, Robin, you want to go first?
It doesn't matter. Okay. So there I was sitting at the bar. Seriously, at the Clayton College Natural Health Conference that Phyllis organized. I think that was the title of it. I was a student at Clayton College. And because I live in South Carolina, there was nowhere to learn herbal medicine. And I had kids at home and I couldn't go to North Carolina, we're the other Carolina. So I couldn't go to North Carolina because I was still raising kids and working and doing all the things. And so I was in my first year at Clayton and I went to the conference and I was sitting at the bar in the hotel lobby waiting on something to happen. And I see this. Well, I'm a firm believer in, and I'm sure you all are, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I had talked with Rosemary a couple of times, even on the telephone, which was way strange, but for then. And I'm sitting there just waiting on everything to get started because it's several hours drive for me to get there and I have to get there early and get my bearings. And so I see this bear of a man walking down the hall to go register. And the closer he got, the stronger I could feel him. And I'm like, I don't know who that is over there, but that's my brother. That's my teacher right there.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who he was. I didn't know that he was a teacher. I just had no clue. Didn't care. I knew that's my brother and that's my teacher.
Wow.
So I watched you go over and register. Your room wasn't ready. So you went and sat down on a sofa in the lobby and promptly fell asleep. You were really excited to be there too. Joking, it was a great conference. And so I went to every class that you taught and we engaged in a conversation, and you realized through our conversation that my husband, Mac McGee, is friends with Gerald Fry, who you also know through Dr. Will Winter.
Yep.
And so we had a really nice conversation about grass-fed beef genetics and, the whole thing. So I followed you all over the eastern side of the country for a few years and took the same classes over and over because I didn't care. It was Matthew Wood teaching, and I had to absorb every ounce of energy and knowledge and wisdom that I could gain. And the next year at the Clayton conference, I walked up to you and you asked me some question. How are the cows doing? And I'm like, for the love of God, Matthew, you're Matthew Wood. I want to talk about plants. I talk about cows all the time. And you looked at me and said, but you're Robin McGee. I talk about plants all the time. I want to talk about cows. So yeah, that was fun. I got a really big kick out of that. So again, I followed you all over creation. And when we were at Rosemary Gladstar's, you and Phyllis was there teaching for a week.
Yeah.
And one day we were there, you said, you need to come to New York to the Adirondacks to Kate Gilday's place. I'm going to be there for a week. You will love her. She is pure sweetness. And you were right.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite memories from being at Kate's and there are so many, but one of the coolest things that stands out is it was late that night, late for us, it was dark. And all the campers had already gone to bed, and you and I were, and Don were sitting on the porch. There's only a candle burning on the table, and it'd been a long, busy, hectic day for you. And I said, okay, so I have this book that you haven't signed. So he's like, yeah, I'll do that. Let's do it right here by candlelight. I've never done that before. So I thought it was pretty cool. So yeah, I've had to buy another copy of the Book of Herbal Wisdom because I wore out the first one. It's fallen apart, and I can't let that happen. So I bought another one. So next time I see you, you have to sign that one too.
Oh, yeah. Those were the days. I certainly remember that staying there. It wasn't kitchen, living room. It was a small house. Don built it. Quite an amazing person. It was up there in the Adirondacks, and they are still there. They aren't as sociable, I would say. They got $1 million company actually, and one of their daughters is a very famous actress. I can't remember her name, but so they go to Florence and all sorts of things, and so they aren't. I mean, they're doing herbs all the time, but they just have to economize with their time. But yeah, those were great days. Part of that early thing. And this reminds me, I wanted to just talk for a second, and I do want to talk about cows. Yes. Yeah, and I mean, and I do want to say that Robin is herself really responsible kind of for the salvation of the Trask cattle line, which was really the only wild, semi-wild, cattle that had been just released on an island and, allowed to procreate on their own and not have, veterinarians deliver the calves and do it on their own or die. And slowly this Mr. Trask built up this cattle lineage. And Max, Robin's husband's father, was a big adherent of this. I asked Mac all about this. So Mac, then he went off to agricultural college, and it's like, I'm not into all this stuff. And he, after his father died, and he inherited, Robin could correct me if any of this is wrong, he inherited the farm. He started selling those off, and he didn't care that much. And then Robin came along, and she said, if you want me to live here with you, you're going to have an organic farm. And I don't know if you recognized what the Trax cattle were, or he did maybe, and he realized, reconstitute the herd. And you had to really go around buying cattle at auctions and stuff. Of that.
Well, this is what I told them. I've watched we've been together almost 30 years now. And for the first year, I didn't know anything about farming. So I just watched. I wanted to see what he did. And finally, I asked him one day, do you not hear the earth screaming at you, please stop killing me? He said, what do you mean? I said, if all those chemicals that you're using on this farm work, why in the hell do you have to keep doing it every year? That doesn't make any sense. I don't have a pesticide or herbicide deficiency, and neither do those cattle. All those herbicides that you're spraying out there to kill all those broadleaf weeds, that's where all the nutrition is. It's not in that grass. And he said, well, if you find me a better way to do it, you find it and I'll do it. So I did, and he did, and we've lived happily ever after.
Yes. And I got to tell, this won't matter, my mother, Mina, that your husband looked more like our Uncle Joe than anybody I ever met. Our favorite, it would be my mother's uncle, our favorite relative, just about. He lived to be 100, and he was a farmer in Pennsylvania, not far from where David Winston lives, actually. Big strapping guy with blonde hair, which is a little unusual for a Jew, and big, and a lot like a lot like Mac and wearing overalls, just like Mac when I met him. So I just couldn't help but it was really a pleasure to meet somebody that reminded me of our Uncle Joe. He was just so meaningful a person to everybody in the family.
Yeah, our Uncle Joe left Europe because you couldn't buy land if you were Jewish.
Yeah.
And he spoke 7 languages.
With a stutter.
But he had been trained to be a rabbi, but what he really wanted to do was be a farmer. And so he came to New York.
Yeah.
And the first day or whatever, slept on someone's floor, as typical in my mom's family. You put up people that were coming from the old country, and they brought him to work in a canning factory. And after 3 days of that, he's like, no, I did not come here to do this. And he left and he went to work in a lumber, as a lumberjack. In Vermont, I think.
Yep, right. That's what
you want to pick up the story, Matt?
Yeah, well, so he worked as a lumberjack in Vermont, and every Friday night, I'm sure they didn't observe Shabbos, but they did get the day off, maybe Saturday or Sunday or both, perhaps. I don't know. Those lumberjacks must have worked real hard. There had to be a limit to how hard you could work those guys. They're all 20, 23, whatever, 17. But at Friday night, he would, the camp would close down, and the foreman always invited him over for dinner because the two of them spoke Russian, and they would talk about Dostoevsky and all that kind of because Uncle Joe was thoroughly literate. So it was, a really special time for that foreman. So he collected up enough money to buy a farm along the Delaware River, and as it happened, Delaware. So his farm, for anybody who's in the area, is the most southern farm that was incorporated into the Delaware Water Gap, which is a big, long, just boom, the federal government owns the whole thing like a national park. And he owned
reservoir.
Only they never made the reservoir. They kept it. Yeah, they collected the land for that, and then everybody said, "Wow, we don't want a reservoir. We want a park." So he had to sell it to the government. But at any rate, so they had this farm. He had 147. I asked him all about this. 147 acres, a mile and a half long, bottom land the whole way, and along with it came a hotel, which in those days probably had no electricity or, I don't even know about indoor plumbing. And our cousin Kara in Brooklyn showed me a picture. It was like the real estate for sale sign. It said, "No Hebrews allowed." So they bought that. And really, I think my mom could say, but I do think that it was kind of like a retreat for all. Then he married our Aunt Mary, and her family were socialists. He was never. He was.
How did he get away with buying it if he was? Was it because he was blonde?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, and Aunt Mary was blonde, right?
Yeah, that's true too. I don't know.
They passed.
Yeah, and his brother was his partner with that. He ran the hotel at first, and then Aunt Mary came along, I think, and then the brother may have stepped out. But yeah. So I think that the people that came there a lot of them were the socialists and kind of radical people that were in Aunt Mary's family, because these were not people that, not very many of Uncle Joe's relatives actually came over. A lot of them were killed in the Holocaust, almost all his family. But so that was always my impression. Mom worked there as a waitress, yeah, and our aunt, her cousin, who was like a sister, Audrey, as well.
And Kara worked there.
Wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. And so this was just such a meaningful place to us. And it was just kind of closing down when we were kids. And I got terrible poison ivy there when I was 14.
My mother also.
Oh, okay.
My mother also got poison ivy there.
Okay. But Uncle Joe, he could just rip it out, big, robust guy. Robust. And he was robust. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so, and when he was 99 years old, he got sick, and my mom asked him, "I know you got sick over the winter. Why didn't you pass away then?" And he said, well, I was going to, but there was these green beans in the freezer and no one would eat them if I passed away.
That he had grown.
Right. Because even in Florida, he gardened his whole yard. He just had like a city lot. But the whole thing was a garden with orange trees in the back and green beans and little rows in the front. And even though he could barely walk, he could still hold a hoe. And he would still garden. He could barely bend over, and he still gardened. So talk about robust and devoted to plants.
Yep.
Well, that's what they always said, right? It was as soon as he couldn't garden anymore.
Yes.
Like, this is the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, yes. Andy was saying as soon as he couldn't garden anymore, he said that's the time. But actually, the last probably 10, 20, hunger strike, the last 10, 20 years, so more and more he couldn't do much physical work. But as it happened, there was a boy across the street who was somewhat mild mental retardation. So he could work in a garden, but he couldn't really finish school and stuff. And he worked for Uncle Joe for years. And finally, when Joe died, his parents bought Joe's house so that he could live across the street. So it was very sweet that way that this guy had a kind of a really lifelong association that was meaningful there. And Uncle Joe would just sit, the last years he would just sit out on a bench and watch the young guy, who's probably in his 30s by this point, garden and tell him what to do with things. And I think he got to the point where he was bedbound and he couldn't get out, and that's what decided that he's not gonna, he decided to go on a hunger strike, and he died 2 weeks short of 100, which is like, wow, he could have made it to 100, but he didn't care. So yeah,
If I can't garden, I don't care anymore
and
this world.
I gave my middle name here because his wife Mary Yavner was the sister of my grandmother Kaufman, Ida Yavner Kaufman, and the Yavners came from Lithuania. And that's the name of a town in Palestine, is what the family used to say. In Israel nowadays, Yavna, and so that name means someone who comes from Yavna, Yavner, someone from Yavna. So that's either that or it may mean something else. But well, let's see. So Robin, you mentioned Kate and Don, and I wanted to read this poem. So this poem was written by, I was up at Kate and Don's, and I was scheduled to speak on a radio program in New York City. I don't know, Carolyn's no longer with us. She might be able to identify this station, but it was a Black radio station, and I don't know. So this poet's name was Fabian Miranda. I think she was from Jamaica. She's passed on since, but she wrote this poem for me. And it's like, this is like, I was up there along the road with Kate and Don in our class. I don't know if Robin was there actually, but we were picking herbs and stuff, and it was like paradise. And Fabian wrote this poem that just sounded, I mean, it just is exactly a description of what it felt like up there. And she read this on the radio about 3 or 4 days later. So it's called The Healing Road. There is a healing road that winds through forest, swamp, wooded plain, and field across the many tabled tops, mountain tops and prairies nestled in the godlands of creation. Here we bow our heads as if in prayer, humbled by the majesty of nature on parade before the magistrates of time, memorialized amongst the lilies of the field. These stems, these brilliantly executed canvassed compositions of leaf, bark, and apothecaried herbal respirations, breathing frequency of musical admissions into sacred tabernacles of our veins, where blood conscripts the doctrine of a signature, inscribed by secrets hidden in the color green, plants sway in concert orchestration with the wind, resplendent in the sun as if engaged with God herself, while echoes hasten mankind to their calling with a promise of a remedy for ills and tampered bodies weathered by omission and perverted by a path mistaken for a shortcut journey home. Tattered and rejected, we find out once again the holy grail of life resides within familiar names, names we call upon like old friends, still forgiving, open hearts, they're still forgiving, open hearts receiving us no matter what transgression we have borne against the voice of nature. Do you remember them? Blue vervain, black cohosh, elecampane, coltsfoot, mullein, sassafras, yarrow, shepherd's purse, lady's mantle. Do you remember? Pokeweed, goldenrod, ginseng, sage, meadowsweet, nettles, chickweed, angelica, mugwort, blessed thistle, pine, yellow dock, peppermint, cayenne, skullcap, yes, and so many more. Acres upon acres of green gold awaiting human harvest to remove the cataracts of distance from our birthright, mana for our bodies, minds, mind, and souls. Yes, nature is alive on many winding roads. July 2009. That's just extraordinary. That was what it felt like to be up there too. And I don't know if that was the year actually that Robin was there or not. It could have been. Yeah, 2009.
I don't know if I was there. I don't recognize the author's name, but that doesn't mean.
I hadn't met her until I got to New York City, and she came to a lecture of mine. I know all those names and the doctor lectures and stuff. Wow. But she wasn't at that class. Yeah. So, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
Hey, I was going to say, hey, Judy, and before it gets too late here,
Yeah.
I would love to hear how you met him.
There we go. Yeah. So I was trying to think back because it feels like I've known Matt for a really long time. When I was in herb school with Shatoya, I read the plant 7 Herbs book. And I felt that I was like somebody was speaking my language. And then a couple years later, I got a hold of the book of Herbal Wisdom. And again, it was like just this deep dive into, Matt's work, which was just so profound for me. And again, I felt like it was just the languaging, like someone really understood and could really hear the plants and speak for them. And he heard them in a way that I did too. And then I read a writing on Solomon's seal, and I had a torn rotator cuff. And so I took some Solomon's seal. I drop dosed it for a month. And then when I went in for surgery, they had cut me open and the tear had healed. And they sewed me back up. So I wasn't even under for like 5 minutes. And then like a year or two later, I think I can't remember what happened, but I contacted Matt as a client and we worked together a few times. And I was really, he had me write down the name of the plant on a piece of paper. It was a type of muscle testing, and then hold it to see what would happen in my body energetically. And again, it just really spoke to me. So we worked together a while, and then things kind of passed. And then I moved to Marin County, and the day that I moved, I saw a flyer that he was teaching an apprenticeship program through Gathering Time. And I ran into the store and I was like, is there still space? They said yes. And I jumped in on it. And then we reconnected. Basically, like most people, try and take everything that he offers. And we became friends. And he's been a wonderful mentor. And I've learned just so much. And it's profound. It's been great.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'd say both Robin and Judy are way more sensitive than I am, I know. And I don't know that all you guys are sensitive to more or less to some level. And yeah, it seemed like we knew each other forever. But also I'm very aware that we only met when you'd gotten to Marin. It's really weird. I never got in on your life before that, which was in the Bay Area, which is kind of strange because you refer to it and it's always kind of an abstract haze to me. Judy, you lived down there and you were practicing down there before you moved up to Marin, and she's been a very active practitioner too. So, and she studied with one of the great Ayurvedic doctors, teachers in Sonoma.
Diana.
Yeah, Diana. Yeah, who and one of her students in Lake County actually got us together. We had a fun dinner. So I have met her, and we kind of approve of each other. Although I mean, she's so much more sophisticated than me. She knows incredible stuff.
No.
So I don't know, Judy, are you going to teach Ayurveda in?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that of course is a bit of a center because of Vasant Lad, who used to live there and got the word from above to move to Asheville, and so from Albuquerque. Yeah, yeah. So, and we will, there was quite a fun group in Marin when Jolie was there.
Yeah.
Terrell and Rusty are still there, and then my friend Peter down in San Francisco, and Tony, I would stay with Tony a lot, Tony Seifert, and he would come up, and he was a herb student and studied with me, and then before that at the California School of Herbal Studies, and so those were wonderful times. Yeah. So I want to tell actually when I met Phyllis, because so I was employed, so I was a well-known herbalist by the late 90s, and Nella, the herbalist who was working up the program for the Clayton College in Birmingham, Alabama, founded by Lloyd Clayton, she contacted me, and we met at the AHG herb conference in Cincinnati, which was very memorable to me, and she and I met and kind of hit it off. But then she got sick, she got cancer, she died within the year, within 6 months, perhaps, or 8-10 months. And so one day I got a call from this woman from with a Southern accent from Clayton College, Phyllis Light, and I had to test her out a little bit. So I had studied with Tismal Crow, who I call He Who Must Not Be Named, and actually I learned about Solomon seal more psychically from him. I realize now it just kind of emanated out of him, and then I learned about bone set some for setting bones, because I wouldn't have felt confident about that without he and several other Native Americans or people that had used it for setting bones taught me about that. So there I am. I test Phyllis, like, so can you tell me about bone set? Is it used for setting bones? And, oh yeah, sure, certainly. She knew that from her grandmother. And Solomon seal, she knew all about that. So she passed my test. I mean, that was pretty obscure. She was probably the only herbalist in the whole country in 1999 who could have tuned into those plants, but I think who knew those plants. But I think it was because she and I were so tuned in from the start that I asked the right questions. I asked about the right herbs, and later we found out that Tismal had actually lived in Arab there, although he used his other name that he used sometimes in Minnesota, Spider, and so we both knew him, and I learned a lot of Southern medicine that he probably learned from some of the same kind of cultural background people, not necessarily, sometimes Indians, sometimes not. So there's Phyllis can elaborate on that, but I just had to tell that. It's so funny.
The only thing I can add was that Matthew and I, after that initial conversation, we talked on the phone once or twice or a month, sometimes more often, just talking about herbs. And we've never met at this point, right? We're just talking on the telephone. And then IHS, International Herbal Symposium, was coming up, and this was like a year later. And Clayton was sending me up there to be part of that, and I was teaching a little class on Southern folk medicine, and Matthew was going to be there. So we figured that we would run into each other somewhere along the way, right? So anyway, I was walking around the pond, and then and I had no idea what Matthew looked like. And then this guy was walking around the pond from the other direction. So we kind of like passed each other. And when we got just past each other, it was really weird. We both stopped and turned and looked at we both turned to look and like, and so we immediately knew who each other was, even though we'd never seen each other. We knew. And so then we just kind of like got together and went off on a picnic table and started talking. And it's been going ever since.
Yep.
Totally going ever since.
Yep. Right. That was at Wheaton College, and we may have seen the last international last summer, but it's been a very memorable and fun ongoing sort of a thing. So Susan Leopold from UPS, United Plant Savers, ran it last year, but she didn't make a profit, lost some money, so we're not sure if she may do it online. Everything's online nowadays. But those were wonderful years. Yeah. Rosemary ran it in those days. And, Rosemary is our grandmother, the mother of all herbalists in North America almost, And but she's kind of retired. She and her sweetheart up on the border of Canada and Vermont. You gotta have someone to cuddle with if you're gonna live up there in Zone 3 in the up there on the edge of Canada, boy. So so she's happy, but she doesn't do as much as she used to. So we're on our own, and we try to. She was someone. It's like her cloud medicine just descended on all of us and kept us all from fighting and all being nice to each other. We were all nice to each other, and we were all respectful, and it was great. And when she backed off and the younger generation came along, it's more militant, and it's not been quite so nice that way. But they don't really know that their grandmother is up there. But I remember I was into animal medicine, and she said, "Oh yeah, I went out on to do my vision quest on the top of the mountain there on she owns 2 mountains there, Sage Mountain." And she went up there, and as soon as she got up, the clouds descended and she couldn't see anything. And she said, "I couldn't see anything. Nothing happened." I was like, "Golly, Rosemary, you have cloud medicine. You just get through you just vaporize right through the keyhole and just unite everybody, and nobody can resist. You just have that beautiful kind of Piscean type cloud medicine." Not that she's very Piscean, actually. She's quite a robust person. So, yeah, I think all of us have met her. And gee, Robin, then I want to say some stuff about Robin. You have a great attunement to animals, more than me. And I can you tell any of those stories? I remember the story about the copperhead that came up to your yard. Can you tell that story? Yeah.
Sure, but my husband just walked in here and he wants to tell you happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday. Hi, Mac. Does he look what?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Copperhead. God, there's been several instances. The first time I ran into him was down at the lake with my son. He always liked to go to the lake, and I like to follow the little creeks that come up into the farm and see what plants are growing and what I can find there. And there was if we were at the beach, it would have been called a tidal pool. I don't know what you call it in the woods, but there was a little mud hole that was fed by the creek. And I had walked over there, and I was literally this far from this copperhead. And I saw him and he saw me, and neither one of us wanted to move. And I turned around and pushed my son and said, "Run." So we got away from there pretty quick. And the next time I saw this, I know it was the same one. The next time I saw it, I was walking through the field with my brother. We were out looking to see what plants were up. And brother goes with me. I call it booger hunting. He thinks he's my protector, and I think that's precious. He's bigger than Mac. He's like a cross between Larry the Cable Guy and Ron White, but he looks like Hank Williams Jr. And so he booger hunts to keep me safe. And I'm like, dude, if you'll take your energy way over there somewhere, I'm kind of in sync with all of this. And you're going to get me killed one day. Go over there. So I see this snake tail about this long sticking out in the little pathway. And my brother freaked out. I, however, did not. I speak Parson tongue. What can I tell you? I've even got on my green Harry Potter leggings. And so I took my shoes off like any normal person would and walked closer to the snake. Now, keep in mind, I could not see his head, but I knew he had one. And I wasn't afraid. And I just walked over and was probably a foot from him and had my hands out and was very, very calm, oddly, and said in my spirit to him, I think you are beautiful. You are magnificent. You are my favorite snake in the whole world. And you are more than welcome to stay in these weeds anywhere out here on these 500 acres. Just stay away from the humans, the houses, and the animals. There's plenty for you to eat out here. Plenty. The things that are stealing our eggs, go eat all of them. And there's plenty. So you just stay away from the humans, the houses, and the animals, and you can live. I won't bother you. And I sent him on with a blessing, and he moved out of the way. And the next time I saw him was a year later. And I walked out the door and walked across the patio and started to actually stepped down and was walking around the driveway to go out to the storage building. And there he was. And I'm like, dude, really? Really? Do you remember the conversation that we had? I told you there's 500 acres here for you to live on. You can come and go as you please. Just stay away from the humans, the houses, and the animals. And up here, you're around the house and the humans, and I got grandbabies, and I can't have you here. So I'm afraid you're going to have to die because I hate it. I'll do it respectfully, but I can't have you here. And that snake looked at me and in his spirit said to me, I remember the conversation. I came here to die, but I had to bring you the medicine first. I don't know what that meant, but I was kind of speechless. And then I couldn't kill him. I had to call Mac to come and do it. And Mac will kill it. To him, the only good snake is a dead snake. And I just do not feel that way. Because me and the black snakes have our own little thing going on. So Mac killed him. And he's like, what you want me to do? Go throw him in the pit pasture? No, absolutely not. I told him it would be done respectfully. So you did your part. You go away. So I was trained as a firekeeper by an Abenaki Indian. And so I built a sacred fire and I put him on it and I offered him back to Creator. And that was, I felt like that was the right thing to do to release his spirit so he can come back and do the snake thing again and maybe bring somebody else the medicine or whatever his next evolution is to be. Huh. So that's my copperhead story.
Yeah,
that was beautiful.
Thank
you. It was really beautiful.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Was he came up? Do you know? Or he came to die just as an offering, as animals sometimes do, or he was dying?
I do not know. I do not know. He just said, I came here to die. I came to die, but I had to bring you the medicine.
Huh. Wow. Ah, well, itself is medicine. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah. I also remember you saying how you made a deal with the hawks not to eat the chickens, which I thought was pretty incredible. So, yeah. Oops, are you off there for a second?
Yeah, that's a really good story. Got time for me to tell it?
Yes.
Okay, so we were building the chicken condo because I didn't like that the chickens only had this coop and they didn't have room. They couldn't get out. This was like when Mac first started doing chickens here, not on the commercial level like he used to do across the street, but in the backyard because I didn't want nothing to do with that commercial stuff. So I was down there working on the chicken condo, and I sat down to rest, drink some water, take a little break, and I said, I don't know what is happening, but I just all of a sudden felt like I was being watched. And I saw a red-tailed hawk on top of the tallest sweet gum tree across the field. And I said, oh, no. We can't have that. So again, I stood up, took my shoes off, held my hands up, and said, I think you are beautiful. I love that you are here, but please don't eat my chickens. These chickens sustain me and my children and my husband, and we need these eggs. So please don't kill my chickens. There's plenty of critters that come here that try to kill the chickens and that eat the eggs, but they're nasty. They're rodents. You can live a very full life if you just catch those things. So there's all kind of things out here that you can eat. Just please don't eat my chickens, and I won't let my husband shoot you. And we never lost a chicken for a couple of years. Yeah, I thought that was pretty amazing. Then we had these different hawks that showed up that migrate every year. This particular family didn't. They lived here year round. But I don't know if something happened to this same hawk. He was so beautiful. He flew out. I used to, when I was questioning my spiritual path, you know, that whole thing we do as kids, God, just give me a sign. Well, I asked for a sign in a language that I understand. And clearly that was bird language at the time. So this hawk landed, basically, if I look out my patio door, I could see where he was. And I could see him out every window on that side of the house. And he was just there watching for mice. I'm sure that's what he was doing. And I saw him and I'm like, I have to take him something. I have to give him an offering because he has been so awesome and not killed any of the chickens. And the only thing I could find, I had made cornbread the night before, and I reached over and just grabbed a handful of cornbread. And you can't let critters be hungry. And walked out barefooted again, because that's what I do. And I walked about halfway from the house to where he was. And I said, I brought this for you. Thank you so much for not eating my chickens. And I crumbled it and put it on the ground. And I said, I know it's very human for me to ask you this, but could you please leave me a feather? Please, just one. I just want one feather, please. And so he sat up there and watched me come back to the house and watched me looking at him out the window. And eventually he started just shaking and fluffed all his feathers up. And I saw some of them fly, the little down feathers flying out. So as soon as he ate his cornbread and left, I took my myself out there, and I dug through the bull thistle and all of the things that was there, where just under where he was perched, and I found 4 little hawk feathers, down feathers from him. So I thought that was pretty sweet.
Oh.
Yeah.
It looks like just Tara is here. And we didn't hear Tara's story.
Yeah, that's almost John's story.
Tara and Robin.
Yeah, if John wants to, if you want to tell a story, John has always told it. You could tell a story.
Yeah, maybe it's my turn to tell it. So, this would have been at least 10 years ago.
No, more like 20.
It seems like time flies. We had never been into, my husband and I we've been together, married for going on 24 years. So quite a while, but we've always been into health and wellness, working out, supplements and so forth, but herbs were rather new. And I don't even remember how we heard about this herb walk that was going on in town, but it was kind of like one of those weekends you're like, I don't have much going on. I heard about this herb walk. Let's go do this. It's a really nice day. And so we went to this herb walk on a local, beautiful organic farm, and is, just kind of iconic in a way, right? Just this really beautiful farm, very well maintained. And they had hay rides going through the woods on a path. And Matt had this loudspeaker and was giving a talk. And my husband, John, was able to steal Matt away for a moment and ask a question. He said, I've had this low back pain for a couple of years now, what could help? And my husband has done a number of interesting trainings, from martial arts to remote viewing to neurolinguistic programming and all sorts of stuff in those realms. And he's said, he really knows a good teacher when he sees one, just with the various teachers he's been with. His account of this is he saw that Matt crouched down to the ground and started speaking to the plant, and the plant apparently spoke back, and Matt grabbed a goldenrod leaf and gave it to John, and he said, here, chew this. And my husband did, and he said he didn't have lower back pain again for like 3 years. And so he was definitely sold. So that was it. My husband, who's a consummate kind of business thinker, creative person, was like, we've got to work with this guy. I wonder, does he have an online presence? And this was really before a lot of people were doing online teaching. And so we kept in touch loosely with Matt over a few years. And then a handful of years later, we did end up starting the school. Started out with a few classes here and there, and now it's formed into what it is with so many students. And now with the check out the new site, brand new site with all sorts of amazing features and so many classes and amazing things. It's just been an absolutely amazing journey.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, so the way I experienced it, so I think I was actually up on the hay wagon when he asked that. And the second he asked the question, it's like my mind kind of stopped for a second. And I just knew that it was the goldenrod. I knew it would help, and maybe not as much as it did, but I didn't talk in a language. It's just that it's like there must have been a communication. I just knew almost instantly, but it was more like a second. I just knew, this herb will help him. So, and that's not the only way you use goldenrod. I wouldn't say that was an off-brand use, but that was not its most popular use. I'd even be less hesitated today.
Did it clear it up?
Yeah, for three or four, I think he says 4 years usually. And so that, it was, I suppose, a communication that way. And he may be more aware than I am of actually, of the dialogue occurring. Yeah. So that was wonderful. And then I'm a hands-on learner. So a student finally asked, a client, well, could we do a long distance by Zoom? And I said, well, show me how to do it. And so we did it. And after that, then I think I got in touch with John and Tara, and I said, oh, well, I see how you do this. Like I was kind of afraid to do a podcast because podcast, what's that? Like what, but Zoom I could understand. So we've always used Zoom until tonight, which we had a little bit of trouble with.
Yeah, I apologize for that. It's kind of a rookie mistake, but
well, thank you, Robin. That's your stories. Oh,
amazing stories, Robin. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and they are actually kind of on a level with my Susan stories. And I don't know if you saw, I did interview her. I had to do most of the talking. Yes, right. So yeah. So just to, we should finish one of the stories. There's a place shot at Lake Minnetonka, which is halfway to my house where I used to live, and she went out there with a friend, and they had their fishing rods and their casting, and these guys, everybody's fishing, and they keep on catching snapping turtles, and she, like not really huge ones, but a good size. And she said, "Wait," and they would cut the line and just let the turtle go. And she said, "Wait, no." And she said, "No." And she took the turtle. She'd take the turtle and work the hook out of the mouth and throw it back, and the people are all like, who the heck is this person? She said, I just talked to them in their mind and told them that I was going to help them. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. On those fantastic notes, we will end for tonight. Thank you for the great birthday party. And yep. And here's the hero here who gave birth to me 7 years ago today. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I guess.
Good night, everybody. It's been delightful. So nice to meet some before closing.
Uh-oh. Breaking down.
Love you so much, Matthew.
Oh, I love you too. Fun. We'll see ya. Bye.
Good night. And tonight is the grand reopening of the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. So head on over to the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism.com. All this month, we have amazing things going on, including the best pricing ever on our subscriptions. We have a new bonus offer each week. Read all about it here. And I promise it's worth the reading. We have a new library option called the Professional Library. So those of you who are particularly advanced students and those of you who are already in herbal practice, this has you in mind. All the library's options have over $17,000 worth of content. Okay. And we recently, just this month with this grand reopening, just added $2,400 in courses. So
good time.
Yeah. There's the woman with the tongue. Scroll down there a little bit.
Oh, that's the one you wanted to see?
Yep. There, she's a little bit anemic. See how pale she is, and the center of the tongue is pale. And actually, we can't see it, but her lips are pale too. So
here, I can get a better picture. I think it's one of our first ones here.
Yeah.
There you go. This has been a very popular class, and so definitely tune in. We already have 3 classes there for you to enjoy. Also, we have a free intro coming up, and you'll learn a ton just in this free intro. So down here, you'll see that we have free intro class. You can sign up for that.
Yep.
And that will be chock full of information, I promise. I know Matt can't help but share so much amazing information.
Yep.
Matt, you're going to take off?
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Tara.
Those are wonderful stories. So delightful. A number of people commented, it's delightful to see your family together, smiling and sharing stories.
Yeah. The heroes.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for your work, Tara.
Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been a delight. And we also have the intro to the endocrine system coming up with Matthew Wood and Phyllis D. Light. And Matt has a new book coming out. He is just such an amazing, prolific author. The intro to Matthew's new book, A Shamanic Herbal, is also available on the homepage here. You can just click here and watch it. And you can also pre-order the book as well. And for those of you who are just like, I would like to have some one-on-one guidance, some help, the new orientation to the site, we have this available for you as well. Each week we are doing an orientation. And so you can check out the calendar and register for one of the orientations. You can, of course, always reach us at hello@woodherbs.com with any questions and help you may need in this transition. We have prepared this amazing site. We've worked 14 months to prepare this amazing new site for you. With these new offers, like I said, the professional library, we also have searchable transcripts. So that means not only are they transcripts of each class, but you can search for a certain term. And you can then jump to the point in the video where that term is mentioned. We have closed captions. The new site is so easy to navigate. We have certificates offered with most courses that are included in the price. And we have this amazing feature called the site index, which is growing. And much like in a book, so if you go up to the index here, I believe I have to be signed in, but much like you have an index in a book where you look up a term to be able to go to the point in the book where those terms are mentioned, same concept here. And the links will take you right to the videos that those terms are mentioned, and then you can use the searchable transcripts to then further search for where exactly that term is mentioned in the video. There's so much to mention here. We will be featuring so many amazing things that are new on this website here this month. Stay tuned. We have best pricing ever throughout June here. So make sure to grab these offers while they last. We have the monthly A to Z as we had before. The library, we have the new library plus A to Z. A number of you have asked for this because you want to have the library anyways and A to Z, but wrap it into one subscription just for easy billing. And so there you got that. And then the new professional library, which includes everything that's included in these previous options, but also included is the new tongue evaluation. We have study groups, live Q&As with all your favorite teachers, including Matt. We have game nights, and case studies and advanced discussions are coming in early 2025. You'll have access to classes as soon as the recordings are available. No waiting for those. They're available within just a few days, and 50% off any new courses that come while you are enrolled in the professional library. So this is, especially if you're really a gung-ho, an advanced student or a practitioner, that's a really, really great option. So check out the new site. There's so much here. There's something for everybody at all levels. You can pre-order Matt's new book. So many wonderful offers, and make sure to register for these upcoming free classes too. Intro to tongue evaluation, intro to the endocrine system, and stay tuned for more. We have so many wonderful things coming up here in June, and we're always so delighted to put all this together for you. This is just like, it's so exciting to have been working on this for months and months and months. And I just can't wait for you all to dive in and see all the amazing features, all of what's included. If you're wondering what's coming up, the classes, we have a calendar at the top in the menu as well, and you can check that out. I'll hang around here for a few minutes to see if you have any questions. You can chime in the chat. But remember, you can always contact us at hello@woodherbs.com. Weren't those stories just wonderful tonight? Boy, it's so fun. I mean, Matt has literally friends all over the world, and to have them joining us here tonight was such a delight. All right. Well, thank you all so much. If you found this helpful, valuable, enjoyable, please share with your friends as well. We really appreciate that. Like and subscribe. Make sure to go to the YouTube channel if you're not already there, Matthew Wood Herbalist, and subscribe and turn on the notifications. We do a lot of impromptu and scheduled broadcasts there that are different. They're in addition to classes. So lots of free and fun stuff there as well. I've been doing a series called Becoming an Herbalist, and that is where a number of herbalists who are part of the Matthew Institute of Herbalism and also those who are not share their stories and how they became an herbalist. We've heard that a number of those who are in our year 1 program absolutely love herbs and they are following their path, but they're still wondering, how am I going to be able to apply this in life? And so that question really inspired me to start this series, which we have over a dozen interviews already. It inspired me to do these interviews so that we can all glean insight and inspiration from those who are already, quote, herbalists. Now, as Phyllis will say, for example, you don't have to know 25 herbs to be an herbalist, but you can know one herb really well. Know one herb, how to use it 25 ways, and you're an herbalist. But for those who want to take it beyond, those stories are really inspiring and a lot of fun to listen to. They've been a lot of fun to do. So, for example, we'll be doing another tomorrow. I'll also be talking with Amanda Nicole again, who's one of our lovely teachers at the Matthew Institute of Herbalism. She teaches plant attunement, and we've been going through her book, Flowers for a Girl, Plant Medicine for Sexual Trauma, and going through the book herb by herb, and really just kind of, it's a conversation. It's also in itself kind of been a plant attunement in each conversation as well. Has been really a delight, and have heard in the comments has been really helpful for those who've experienced trauma as well, trauma of various kinds. So I encourage you to check that out as well. Thank you, Hector. Yes, the plants help, that's for sure. So it's been a wonderful night. Again, if you have questions, contact us at hello@woodherbs.com. We're happy to help. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And take care. Have a great night, everybody. Good night. Thank you. Thank you so much for the kind words. It's nice to hear from the people who are out there. Take care.